My name is Wayne Linsey, and you are watching Studio Q.
Studio Q show. Now you know.
I love the fact that everything is set up for us, not just equipment-wise. I mean, not the physical setup, but the fact that we have our own rehearsal room that never changes, and that I have another set of equipment on stage, which is a duplicate. I love the fact that we have a recording room right there, a studio right there in our rehearsal room. Those types of things. I mean, there's a lot of other perks too. I like the fact that, they buy a wardrobe, and so I walk in and I have a new pair of shoes or things of that nature. Yeah, they take good care of us, and I mean they're really nice to us, and we're respected. I have my own parking spot. I mean, little bitty things. I mean, that you might think don't matter, they really do. When we were on American Idol, you'd come in and just park wherever you could find, and sometimes you might be walking 20 minutes, it would feel like, from the way on the other side of CBS lot to get all the way back over to Idol, So it's a small thing, but it's nice to know where you're going to put your car every day. You can just pull in and you're right there, They just picked me, from the beginning. I mean, when I first got there, he started picking on me a lot and just calling my name during the monologues. He'd say something about something and it's like, wait, it looks like you, so he started picking on me.
Okay, now Wayne, have you seen the bear again?
Jay, actually, I'm starting to see this bear all the time. It's like getting crazy.
Well, let's see, what's this one?
Oh, that's me driving to work.
Okay, that's the bear. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And this is me grocery shopping.
Wow,
I mean, there's nothing new out there for me. We've been around the world several times. I have like 4 or 5 passports now. I mean, they, papers added, you know what I mean? Right. So there's nothing new about that for me. I mean, sometimes I miss, playing a full song. Actually, we played throughout the entire commercial anyway. But no, ever since 9/11, traveling's not the same. I moved here January 5th, 1983 from D.C. And the drummer that was in my band in Howard, his name is Lan Richards, he had moved here 6 months earlier and become friends with Rickey, and so the two of them were doing the gig and they had no keyboardist. And so Lan said, call Wayne, my friend just got here. So I mean, I was straight new. I mean, there was nobody in California that even had heard me play. I hadn't done anything here. I had done a lot of stuff back east. But yeah, so anyway, Rickey called me and we did the little fashion show. It was, $75 gig or something, no big deal. Then we went to Burger King afterwards and hung out. And we've been playing together ever since. He's more like my brother than he is my friend. I mean, of course he is my friend, but in '92 after the riots, we were on the road with Whitney, and during that year, we had made a bunch of money, and Rickey says, you should look for a house, And I wasn't thinking about buying a house at that time, and so I said, okay, I will. So I drove out to his neighborhood, which at the time was Phillips Ranch, Pomona, and ended up buying a house 5 houses from him. So then we were neighbors too. We started spending even that much more time together, No, not really, because we don't argue like that. You know what I'm saying? No, we don't do that. No. I mean, the only time we fell out, I didn't work with him anymore. We did do that, but that's a part of life too. Exactly, you know what I'm saying? But, like I said, he's really like my family. He's really like my family. We went to church together for a while. My wife at the time played soccer with his wife, and they won the soccer team together. I mean, just, our kids, all of that. Just so it's been a lot of years. For me, and I would imagine probably the same for him, I mean, the music kind of pushes you to move a certain way depending on what the music is saying. And when I put myself in sync with the motion, then it brings out another hump in what I'm playing. So it kind of links the two together, you know what I mean? So, I mean, like now I still play standing up for the most part, you know, because I like being able to put it in, you know, bring it to life that way. And also that's a part of who I am and what my sound is and everything. The emotion side of it from, you know, in that way. I like to keep it hype, you know. I came up in Atlanta on stage, you know, the band I used to play in Climax, we used to play all kinds of stuff, the Ben Hill Road Show and all these clubs and Cinder Block clubs, and you know, I was always an entertainer, you know, with not just the music, but with, you know, my performance as well. I had locks for 10 years, and when I started losing the middle and started looking like Bozo of locks, I was like, it's that time. I don't want to be that guy running around with locks down here, you know what I mean? I got 8 locks left on my head, and I didn't want to be him. The DC in itself changed my life, period. As a musician, the close proximity to New York, you know, the things that they, first of all, they had like serious funding and programs. They had the DC Youth Orchestra, they had the DC Youth Chorale, they had the Jazz Ambassadors, they had street theater program after school. I mean, that's when I started dancing and I did plays. I mean, I did an opera with Catholic University, The Marriage of Figaro. I mean, I did so many things, you know. Blues Alley was there. I got a chance to go and sit with Dexter Gordon and Dizzy Gillespie and Art Farmer and sit in with Jimmy Smith. You know, and all these people would be there, and you know, it was just incredible. And let me not forget go-go. You know, go-go changed my life as well. In high school, my music teacher was the auntie of Sherry Belafonte. She produced a show called Jump Street, I think, which was a dance show, like a Soul Train, but it was local. And they had Chuck Brown on the show, and they had our high school class come, and we were the dancers on the show, you know what I mean? So I got to see Chuck for the first time, you know, in high school when I moved here. And everybody was into the Minneapolis sound, you know. You know, all the guys played like that, you know, my boys and stuff. And I said, shot the they were like, what are you doing? We never heard that. You know, this is way before Doing the Butt came out, because that's the first song most people heard, you know, go-go wise. Kids would go to the go-go and tape it. You'd be in a restaurant somewhere, and the guy would be in the bathroom cleaning the toilets with his boombox on, playing the last go-go from the night before. It was current. It was, you know, it wasn't about the radio, because radio really wasn't go-go at that time, you know what I mean? It was about the streets. Go-go was on the streets. You know, you'd have kids, junkyard band, on buckets, you know what I'm saying, everywhere you went. Cats. So that's what I mean. It was everywhere. It's in the fabric of DC. That answer is, I still have to write my book. Growing up the son of a preacher and then a bishop, and trying to balance what it is to be a Christian and a musician, and just the whole thing of who God is in my life, and how it relates to what I chose to do for a living, and how I've chosen to live my life in spite of, I should say, what I know to be true and what I believe. Because, I mean, but it's not a religious book. I don't want to stop there. But, you know, when my dad first gave me permission to play in a nightclub at age 15, he went to the nightclub and he looked at it and saw it. And then he said, son, you know, let your light shine in darkness. Be a light into the world. And with that instruction, I'm going to give you permission to play. So he wasn't afraid of the darkness, but he gave me the, you know, the instruction to go and be a light. My dad was incredible. Like, you know, he was the senior bishop of the CME Church, 34th bishop of the CME Church. He was in that 100 Most Influential Black Americans issue of Ebony 8 times as the senior bishop. He lived all over the world. He lived in Africa for 8 years. They made him a king there. He met with Clinton. He met with Carter. He had a meeting with Arafat. They snuck him from Jerusalem over into across the border to meet with Arafat. I mean, he was just an amazing man. He was on the World Methodist Council. He went to Howard for his master's in theology, and he graduated from Payne College. He eventually was on the board of Payne College as a trustee. But he was an amazing man. He was kind, gentle man, but he was a short man, but he was powerful. You know, he didn't raise his voice much, but he was a leader. And he touched so many lives. He was an amazing person. He really was. And, you know, he always supported me and what I wanted to do, and he was proud of me. And matter of fact, that was one of the reasons I can say that I'm done with cocaine, because he told me, just call me one day, son, I want to see you clean your life up before I die. And I said, okay, I will. And I did. So he was able to see that and see me back on top. And so that was a gift that I was able to give him before he passed. So he knew that he could die in peace and know that I was able to carry on. You know, I've gone through cocaine abuse and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? I've lived through a whole lot of stuff. I spent my 21st birthday in a mental hospital, you know, and that's something I'm also not ashamed of, and people don't know. But I want to write a book to just to give people insight on all of these things that they probably have very little insight into. You know, like what it's like to, you know, to even be in a mental hospital. Well, I don't want to give the whole book away, but what it was like, it was very interesting and eye-opening. You know, I mean, there's a lot of turmoil in people's lives that they don't have outlets for or answers for. You know, there's not a lot of help, and they don't have people to talk to. And so without this stuff being dealt with, it just gets out of control, you know, and then you can find yourself right there. So in my case, I'd put too much pressure on myself to accomplish things by a certain age at a certain time, and I just, you know, my mind can go anywhere, and so it just spiraled out of control. My mind wouldn't stop, wouldn't let me sleep, and so then, you know, you started tripping.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You need sleep.
You need sleep, and you need to be able to think clearly. So I ended up in there, and it was a very interesting experience.
Did it help you?
Being there?
Yeah.
I think it helped me because it kept me alive. You know what I mean? If I hadn't gotten help, I probably could have ended up dead, you know, by making a bad choice when I was out of my right mind. I think that's what happens with a lot of people, you know. They spiral out, and then they're not able to make the best decisions, and they might make the wrong choice. I'm going to drive this car when I shouldn't. Right. Or I believe I can fly, so I'm going to jump out this building. You know what I mean? Things like that happen to people. And so in my case, it was a good thing. I mean, you know, my dad took me, you know, I was fortunate that our next door neighbor was on staff at Howard University Hospital. And so when I started tripping, and I went to my dad, and I told him that I didn't see why we couldn't say the word motherfucker, since cussing wasn't invented at the time the Bible was written. Then who said motherfucker's a bad word? I just want to know. You know what I mean? And so I had these questions. And he said, son, come on, let's go take a walk. And he gave me some answers, and then he took me to the hospital, you know, because he knew something was wrong. But, I mean, you know, plus, you know, all the stuff I've survived touring, you know, my experiences, you know, being with Frankie Beverly and Mays and Stevie Wonder and Babyface and Whitney and Shaka Khan and all these people. You know, but it's not about them. The book is about me and my experiences. Well, that was amazing. That was my first major tour ever, and my first time performing outside the country. I joined the band in '84. When I got the call to audition for that band, you know, I was pumped. I got the gig immediately because, you know, I was ready. You know, I mean, I knew that music. My friend Tony St. James had gotten the gig on drums, and he called and said, and they were in Oakland. He says, yo, man, Frankie, they're looking for a keyboard player. And when can you come up here? I said, yeah. And I called the people, and they flew me up that day. I had rehearsal that night, and it was done. At the time, I was the youngest person on the road with the band, period. And we were all male band, so there were no women anywhere on the road with us, you know what I'm saying? And we were, you know, we had the #1 record in the country, back in stride again. I was a big fan of Maze when I heard that record. My brother had it on 8-track, and I used to play it in the basement and just, you know, press those buttons to get to my favorite songs. You probably don't know anything about that. But on an 8-track, that's how you would get to the songs. You'd have to change channels. You couldn't just rewind and go forward. I felt like, you know, I'm supposed to do these things. This is what I was born to do. I always knew I was going to be a musician, so I wasn't surprised by any of it, and from that standpoint, but I was excited. I mean, and it was really good to be playing with musicians like those guys, you know what I mean? For me to be able to put my 2 cents in, you know, it's like, at the same time though, when I joined that band, first thing I did was I studied everything that they had done, but not what they had done as much as what Wu had done. Because that's the guy I was replacing. Okay. You know what I'm saying? I started with respect for what was there, and I built on that. Okay. You know what I'm saying? See, a lot of people come in, and if you're in something that's already established and successful, even if not successful, if it's something that's already established, you have to have that foundation. You can't just come in and just totally switch it up. You know what I mean? So that's what I did. I studied everything he did so I could play his music and play it the way they were used to hearing it and playing it the way that it should be so that the people would recognize it. And then I put Ziggy in it, you know what I mean? Yeah. And gave him my own, you know, my own thing. And then on the new music that we did that I was recording for the first time, you know, that first Back in Stride, Can't Stop the Love album, all that stuff, then I didn't, Back in Stride, all that, you know, was nothing like what he plays like, you know, that's all me. But the other stuff that I would play, you know, I would play it kind of like he played it, Southern Girl, and, you know, the other stuff that was there, Changing Times. And, you know, I had to play what Wu played, you know, to make it rock. And then put Ziggy on top of it and put, you know what I mean, to make it do his thing, you know. Frankie was really cool. He's another guy that's still my family. You know, he was, I lost my niece, matter of fact, we buried her on my birthday last September 29th. And Frank got in town that day from on the road, and he came to the hotel and stayed with me and the family, you know, till 3 or 4 in the morning, and just, you know, and matter of fact, he still goes by and visits my mom when he's in Atlanta, and they sit down and have, you know, lunch together, and for hours at a time, he'll have his driver take him to the house. And, you know, and people calling, Frankie's coming over, can I come? She said, no, this isn't for you to come to my house and take pictures. He's coming to see me. No, I'll see you tomorrow. Best advice. Oh, that's a hard one. Because they give me so much good advice, you know what I mean? And then you're talking about both of them at one time. So, I mean, that's like my whole life of instruction. I'm just flying over me. I'll say this, one thing that stands out. It's not advice per se, but it's something that my dad kind of left with me, and he always did. You know, when I would call him, you know, especially during the later years, when, you know, before he passed, you know, he'd answer the phone and said, how's my star? And I said, oh, Dad, I'm fine. And he would always say, you know, I don't say that because you're on TV. I say you're my star because of your life. You understand? And so that goes back to what he taught me in the beginning, you know what I mean? It's that, you know, you let your life speak, you know, and it's not about being a star. It's not about being on TV. It's not about being in front of people. It's about who you are as a person that defines you. And so that's kind of what I try to put, you know, first in my life, you know, the kind of person I am. I probably would have told me to soften up, because I'm pretty opinionated and I'm pretty, you know, hard in a lot of ways, you know what I mean? I'm pretty rigid. You know, I used to be a lot more. You know, I've listened to interviews I've done at Howard and say, I don't think that anymore. I would say prepare yourself, continue to work toward your goals. I mean, I meet a lot of the youngsters today who are great musicians, and I say, do you read? No, but there's no excuse for not reading. Teach yourself, get a book, do what you got to do, because without being able to read, then it limits the type of things that you are able to do. And so I would say just be as prepared as you can. Do your homework, do your research, do your work, put the work in. It requires work, practice to be the best. And, the best, there is no the best, but practice to be your best. And that's another thing that I don't like to run into. There's this one guy who's always telling, oh, this guy, he's better than so-and-so, he's better than so-and-so. Well, there doesn't have to be a better than, just need to be the best you can be and look for your fit, you see, because there's only one Wayne Linsey, so ain't nobody better than me. You just do what you do better for you and for whatever situation. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? I'm not in competition with anybody, and that's what I'm trying to say. Even, you choose me or you choose somebody else, but still, I'm comfortable doing what I do, and I know who I am and what I do, so therefore, my identity is not based on somebody else's opinion of me. You see, and therefore I can also appreciate and give love to those I see who do what I do, because I can appreciate it. I'm not jealous because they happen to be gifted, No, we all are, and the only thing I can say is my struggle and my fight is against me, that I can become the best me possible and make the best out of the gifts that God has given me. If I can do that, then what more is there? Amazing. Her talent is just like one of a kind, You're playing behind Aretha. That stuff is a trip, to be sitting there playing behind these people. And you realize that you're listening to them live, and then it's not a recording, when you think about it. It can be overwhelming if you're not used to it, And, but, every once in a while you're sitting there and you have to think and you have to pinch yourself and say, that's Aretha. Home, that's what it is. People feel at home with Frank. You know what I mean? When they come to see Frank. Even now, you know what I mean? When his voice isn't as clear as it used to be, they don't really care because he's their family, they love him. When you become a maze head, it's personal. You know what I mean? People will fight you about Frankie Beverly, you know what I mean? Diva. That's what comes to mind when Now she's another extremely talented one, but she doesn't have, at least in my experience, we didn't have that same chemistry. You know what I mean? She's a lot more distant. Unique. He's the most unique person I ever met. Heart. Rickey's got a great heart. Earth, Wind & Fire, they helped shape me, you know what I mean? Their music, growing up, listening to that stuff, Really, it was one of the first concerts I saw too, one of them. I was fortunate enough to perform with Earth, Wind & Fire with Maurice on stage, which was one of the highlights of my life. And I've recorded with them as well, so anyway. But I'm a big fan of Earth, Wind & Fire, Classic.
Yeah.
That'd be the word. Jackson's, another one, I mean, they changed the face of the world musically, a lot of people, since Michael became so big as a solo artist, they don't really give the Jacksons the proper place and respect of all that they accomplished before there was a solo Michael Jackson. In the beginning, Michael was one of the Jacksons, the Jackson 5, and they changed us. We hadn't seen anything like that before. They would step in. They were a band, and they sang. So I mean, matter of fact, Rickey, he started playing bass because of Jermaine. He wanted to have the big afro, and they all started a band. And, okay, I'll be Jermaine. So he's, what I mean. So they have way more influence than they're credited for. And working with them too was another blessing. Little me. Yeah, he's that's my only son, and I'm just so proud of him. He's blossoming into his own musical identity. When he was younger, of course, before he was born, he had a whole studio. I bought him, he had everything, keyboards and drums. But he never really wanted to play any of them. But he was the kind of kid that if he sat out and played it, and it didn't sound like it did when I did it. And he was like, okay, enough of that, you know. He expected to be good immediately. He didn't always understand that, you know, you have to do your own work and that you have to cultivate and practice and do these things. So, you know, for a long time, I was waiting to see where his musical bone was going to show up. And then, you know, then he started dancing. He can really dance, you know, and then he joined a rap group. So my son Courtney, when he joined the rap group, all he was doing was singing the hooks. And I was like, listen, son, you need to start rapping. You know, you can rap like anybody else. Start writing. And so he started writing, and now he's just like crazy with it. I mean, he writes just some great stuff. And he's a gospel rap artist. He goes by the name of Sunwo Love, SUNWHOA. And his first solo album is called Kingdom Influence. And it's just a fantastic album. And my daughter, Alana, is singing on the album as well.
I'm so high and I can't come down. Blessings got me thinking I'm on concrete slabs. Saying you would fly if you wasn't scared of heights. While I'm eating through them woods like a flock of termites. No parachutes, just parasites. Poisoning my soil as I plant the seed of life. Sunlight's the father that's on me to be the gardener. I'm digging in the dirt for the word that be my water.
You know, just to hear him, and also to be so convicted, you know, in his faith is really a good thing too. As my mother says, you know, he's more like his granddaddy than any of y'all, you know. And he probably is. How would I describe myself? Okay, I'm different. Very different. Love myself some music, love to play, love to write, love to perform. And I'm extremely blessed, you know, to have been able to do this for a living. And with some of the most talented people ever to walk the earth. You know, I've been asked before, who else do I want to play with? And I'm like, pretty much there's nobody left. I mean, God has blessed me from Sting to Aretha to Ray Charles to, you know, you name it. I've been blessed to work with them all. So, you know, there's nothing left from that side. But I would like to get my career to the point where I can go out and play for my audiences and make a living doing just that. You know, that's something left to accomplish.